detective gives you testimony, I think, during...
I need you to go close to a microphone so I can hear you. Yeah.
During Detective Fish's testimony and also during Mr. Quinzio's testimony, there was a reference to a voicemail that was extracted from Mr. Quinzio's phone.
Okay.
It was a voicemail from Mr. Vandenburg and Mr. Quinzio.
Right.
And we were not allowed to play that, but we have the disc of the phone call here at Crawford. We can mark that as exhibit for ID.
Okay.
Is that a problem?
All right.
62.
Is that it?
I just said you make a copy of Mr. Vandenburg's.
Wait a minute. Get to the microphone.
Made a copy of Mr. Vanderwall's transcript for the state. We had trouble printing it out, but it's finally got printed out.
Okay.
We'd also provided them with a copy of Lauren Miller's transcript.
Okay. All right. Let's bring him in. How many interns do we have left? Raise your hand. All the numbers going down. Must be Friday or something. Oh, that's a good point. Before they come in, I mentioned right before the lunch break for the lawyers to confer to see if they're willing to go a little bit later today. Are you willing to go a little later today?
Thank you, Your Honor. That'll be fine. We haven't had a chance to really sit down and meet with her. I mean, she got here last night, I think, but obviously we were doing other things. We anticipated, having her day to work with. We may just need a little time. Won't have to delay very long.
Well, we're going to take, if we go late, the jury will take like a 30 to 40 minute lunch break for one. And then of course we'll have a couple of afternoon breaks.
She'd be our last witness, Your Honor, please.
Well, how many more witnesses do you have?
1, 2, 3, 5. She'll be the fifth witness. We got 5.
Okay. Well, let's see how things go. What about this?
We would not be all right with going late.
Wait a minute. Wait. Step out for just a second. We were almost finished. Okay. Now, Mr. Reagan.
Yes, Judge. We would not be okay with going late for a number of reasons. For one, I personally get very fatigued after 5 o'clock. I need to be at my best to do cross-examination, to do that cross-examination.
You're younger than I am, Mr. Reagan.
I understand, Judge.
How do you get fatigued?
I've been living out in a suitcase since Monday before last. We've been working late every night. And I just, I have a hard enough time getting through the day like this, but at any rate, Judge, we
well, I mean, as it stands, it looks like we are getting close anyway. So, I mean, we might go until maybe 5:30 today. Then, okay. And I don't know if we'll.
Chris has another.
Yeah, right. I have my 13-year-old here with me, and babysitter leaves about 5:15. So that creates an issue for me until 7. I can text.
Well, as I said, we won't go past about 5:30, and you're free to leave a little bit early.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel so attached to the court, though, it's hard for me. Okay, thank you.
I mean, we got 3 lawyers on each side, so we don't need 3 all the time. Okay. So we won't go late, but we may end up going until about 5:30. May. I'll just see how things go. All right, bring them in.
I'll take a minute and move out here to put the courtroom, all over the air, but they won't even know about Sunday.
All right, please be seated. Now, let's see what's new today. How was lunch today? Okay. All right. Next witness.
Dylan Vanderwall.
So I need to take the clerk and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name for the court, please.
Dylan Vanderwall.
Where do you currently live, Mr. Vanderwall?
I live here in Nashville.
Okay. Where were you living in June of 2013?
I was living in East House.
Okay. Were you a student at that time?
I was.
And what year were you?
Junior.
Okay. When did you graduate?
14, sorry.
Okay. What was your major?
Human Organization and Development.
So you've gotten a job and decided to stay in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
Where are you from originally?
Los Angeles, California.
Okay. In June of 2013, were you a member of the Vanderbilt football team?
I was.
And what position did you play?
Tight end.
And did you get to know the defendant, Mr. Brandon Vandenburg?
Yes, I did.
Would you point him out for the record, please? You see him?
He's in the back over there.
Would you describe what clothing he has on this briefly?
He has a blue shirt and a blue sweater.
Okay. Record reflected, did identify the defendant. Did he play the same position you did?
He did.
So I guess you spent more time with him than normal.
A little bit closer, please. That should be better.
So I guess you spent a little more time with him than normally you would an incoming player.
Yeah,
Okay. Did you also know Chris Boyd?
I did.
Was he also on the football team?
He was.
Okay. And where did you live in relationship to Mr. Boyd?
We were neighbors in East House.
Okay. And did Mr. Boyd receive a phone call in the early morning hours of June 23rd, 2013?
Yes, he did.
And as a result of that phone call, where did you and Mr. Boyd go?
From that point, I walked to Gillette House with Chris Boyd and Michael Retta.
Okay. Did someone join you along the way?
When we arrived at Gillette, DeAndre Woods was also just in the area.
Was he also a football player?
He was.
Okay.
He is still.
How did you get to Gillette Hall without going to the front desk and through the front entrance?
There's a set of steps on the side that leads into a door.
Okay. Is that the way you went?
Yeah, that is the way we went.
Okay. And what did you observe when you got to Mr. Vandenberg's area where he lived on the second floor?
Walking down the hallway, I saw a female on the ground with her dress above her midriff area. She was laying face down, and there were handprints on her butt.
Okay. Yeah. Was she nude from the waist down?
Yeah, from the waist down.
Okay. Did you notice anything about a security camera at that time?
When we walked in, there was a towel draped over a security camera.
Okay. And did you recognize the young woman as a student?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And once you arrived, what was done with the victim at that time?
Brandon Vandenburg, Chris Boyd, and DeAndre Woods carried her into Brandon's room.
Okay. And where did they put her?
In his bed.
At that time, did you observe Mr. Vandenberg's roommate?
Yeah, at the time when I walked into the room, I was not a part of carrying her in there.
Yeah.
But when I walked into the room, Mac Prelu was getting down off of his bed and walking out.
Did you observe Mr. Vandenburg show anything to Chris Boyd while you were at Gillette Hall?
There was a video being played in the hallway. After we had left his room, we were standing in the hallway for a second, and there was a video being shown.
Okay. And after that, where did the group go next?
We walked back to East, where I lived.
And as you were walking back, did Mr. Vandenburg say anything to you, or did you hear him address other people in the group about what possibly had happened in that room?
Yeah, on the way back, there were multiple stories being told. One was that Brandon, nothing happened, that he was too drunk to remember, and then there was another story where he attempted to have sex with her but couldn't get himself to do it. There were also stories that Cory had sex with her and other people did as well. There were multiple stories being told. There was also, he said that there were condoms that were disposed of, and then there was a water bottle used in some way.
Did he say who disposed of the condoms?
I do not recall.
So when you got back to the dorm, what did Mr. Vandenburg do when you got back to the dorm? Whose room did he go in?
He went to Austin Carter Samuel's room.
Okay. Did you go in there with him?
I walked in at the end, but Austin was in there with his girlfriend at the time.
Okay. Were they asleep or appear to be asleep?
Yeah, the lights were off and they were in bed together, yeah.
Okay. What did Mr. Vandenburg do when you got in there?
He had Austin's phone in his hand.
Okay. Could you tell what he was doing with it?
I know he had the phone in his hand. I don't know exactly what he's doing on it, but he had the phone in his hand.
Did Mr. Vandenburg appear to have been drinking that night?
Yeah, he was intoxicated, but no more intoxicated than another night that we would have been together.
Okay. So, had you seen him intoxicated before?
Yeah, I had seen him intoxicated before.
And this was no different?
No.
How would you describe his level of intoxication as far as his functioning ability?
He was conversing. He was walking without our assistance. He didn't need our help to guide him back. He was walking on his own.
Okay. And where did Mr. Vandenburg spend the night?
He spent the night in my room. I had a 3-bedroom room to myself, so there was not a 3-bedroom, 3-bed room to myself, so there was an extra bed.
Okay. And do you know what time he left?
I did not. I woke up around 10:30, 11, and he was not there.
When did you see him next?
We met at Waffle House the next morning for breakfast. We'd been talking about going there.
Did he ever express any concern for the victim's well-being during your time with him?
He did not.
And when you said he made a statement about attempting to have sex with the victim, why did he say he couldn't?
He said he was too drunk to get an erection.
Okay. And did you report this incident immediately to the authorities?
I did not immediately report it. As soon as I was questioned on it, I gave all the answers and facts I knew.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
All right, prosecutor.
Afternoon, Mr. Vandenburg.
Afternoon.
Mr. Vandenburg, how long had you been at Vanderbilt in June of 2013?
I was going on my 3rd year then.
Okay. And do you know how long Mr. Vandenburg had been there?
I'd say approximately 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. And were you one of the mentors that were assigned to him?
We played the same position, but we came in the same, we were competing for the same spot. So I knew the offense, so I was mentoring him in that facet, yeah.
Okay. And Austin Carter Samuels was one of his mentors?
Yes.
And Mr. Boyd was one of his mentors?
Yeah, they were assigned to hosting him on official visits, so.
Now, you and Mr. Boyd and Mr. Retta were at your dorm about 3 o'clock that morning, or 3 to 3:20,
yeah,
around that time.
Yes, sir.
And y'all were standing out in the hall talking.
Yeah.
And that's when Mr. Boyd got the phone call from Mr. Vandenburg.
Yes, sir.
And in response to that phone call, you and Mr. Retta and Mr. Boyd, along with, I'm sorry, but you and Mr. Boyd went over to Gillette. Mm-hmm. And along the way, somehow Mr. Woods came with you?
Yeah, I think he was there when we walked in the door to the Gillette. He was already in the dorm.
Okay. And when you saw the alleged victim in the floor in the hallway there, you didn't recognize her at first?
I knew who she was. Her and Brandon had a prior relationship.
And you know that they had been together the week before that?
Yes, sir.
And when you got into the room, Mr. Prelude was still there.
Yes, sir.
In fact, he was still laying on the bed.
Yeah, I think he was sitting up when I walked in.
I'm sorry, sitting up. He was still on the bed.
He was in his bed, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And then he got up and left about the same time you all did.
I think he walked out kind of before we did, but yeah.
Approximately, y'all
Yeah,
followed him?
same amount of time we walked out, yeah.
Basically followed him out the door.
Okay.
Excuse me. Now, when you had breakfast with Mr. Vandenburg the next day, and this was at the Waffle House.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you say the next day, are you talking?
I'm sorry, on the 23rd, you had breakfast with Mr. Vandenburg, June 23rd, 2013. It was later that same morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when he was talking to you about this at breakfast, he seemed shocked that this had happened.
Can you repeat that?
When he talked about this at breakfast, he seemed shocked that this had happened.
He was telling multiple stories about what had happened.
Okay, that was on the way back from the dorm that you said that.
This was also at breakfast the next day.
It was also at breakfast the next day?
That day, yes.
Do you recall being interviewed by the Office of Student Conduct on June 25th, 2013?
I remember being interviewed, yes. I don't remember the full details.
And you recall telling that you were asked about the conversation that you had with him the next day at breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And you were asked how was he discussing the incident, and your answer was kind of out of shock, I guess.
He was just telling stories that were not, making sense. The chain of events didn't make sense. He was saying things happened and then things did not happen.
Okay. And that's what you mean with multiple stories. It sounded like he maybe wasn't sure himself what happened.
Yes.
If you read the transcript of that interview, would that help you refresh your recollection?
Possibly, yes, sir.
At least he didn't deny making a statement. He explained it. I don't know what he needs to read a transcript for.
Right, he did.
Well, my question was did he say that Mr. Vandenburg was shocked that this had happened? And I don't think he
You're welcome to
answered
show in that portion, yes.
Yes, sir. That's the portion.
Okay, sure.
It's on page 23.
Before you respond, just let him ask the question. Okay.
Okay. Is there a question leading into this, actually?
I'm sorry. There is. was mostly wanting you to look at the second paragraph on that page, but if you want to see the question leading into it, that's fine. This is on 22.
This is student conduct.
Yeah. Our transcript. If I could have that back, it's my only copy. Does that refresh your recollection, Mr. Vanderbilt?
Yes, sir.
And is that how you described it to the Office of Student Conduct at that time, as Mr. Vandenburg was shocked that this had happened?
Yeah, he was shocked that his other teammates had the story that he told that they had sex with her. He was telling it as if he was shocked that it happened.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, Judge.
Redirect.
If you read down further, you said, just can't believe it as in bragging, or I can't believe it as in, and he said, can't believe it as in what they had done. Does that sound like what was said?
Yes, I guess.
But he was still telling you that he had attempted to have sex with her and couldn't do it because he was drunk.
Yes, sir.
That's all question.
Recross.
And he told you multiple different stories about what happened.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything further?
And I think you previously testified everything he told you
Yes,
about
sir.
what happened that night.
Yes, sir.
He was very specific about some of those, was he not?
Yes, sir.
That's all the question.
He told you multiple different stories about what happened that night.
He did.
Thank you.
Anything further?
No.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Andrew East.
Andrew East.
Face the clerk, raise your hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Mr. East, could you please state your name for the record?
Andrew East,
Mr. East, where do you currently live?
Nashville.
And what do you currently do?
Play professional football.
And in 2013, where were you living?
Nashville.
And were you enrolled in school?
I was.
Were you at Vanderbilt University?
Yes,
And were you also a member of the football team that year?
I was.
Were you on the team the entire time you were at Vanderbilt?
Yes.
What was the position?
Speak up a little bit louder.
Yep.
Okay.
What was the position that you played?
Long snapper.
And during that time, at some point, did you come to know Mr. Brandon Vandenburg?
He was a teammate of mine, yes.
And do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And could you describe what he's wearing?
A blue sweater.
And specifically, drawing your attention to June 22nd of 2013, do you remember that Saturday night?
I do.
And where were you at that Saturday night?
Tin roof.
Did you see Mr. Vandenburg at the tin room?
Yes.
And could you describe the interaction that you had with him?
It was brief. Just said hello.
And that night at the Tin Roof, were you drinking alcohol?
No.
And when you saw Mr. Vandenburg, did you recall if he was drinking any alcohol?
I don't remember.
Was he with anyone that you remember?
Okay.
Had you ever met the victim prior to that night?
No.
And do you recall, was she drinking alcohol?
I don't remember.
Do you remember there being anything unusual about Mr. Vandenberg's behavior?
No, I don't.
And do you remember there being I don't have any other questions, thank you.
All right, cross-examination. All right, thank you, sir. You're excused. Next witness.
The next witness is Lauren Miller.
Lauren Miller.
Yes, sir.
Lauren Miller, please.
Face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Ms. Miller, could you please state your name for the record?
Lauren Miller.
Ms. Miller, do you live here in Nashville?
I do.
And in June of 2000, or I guess what do you do now?
I'm a songwriter.
And in June of 2013, where were you living?
I was living in the Village at Vanderbilt Apartments, and those are adjacent to Vanderbilt's campus.
And were you enrolled at Vanderbilt University?
I was.
And did you know the victim in this case? The judge, I guess, instructed not to use her name.
Okay.
Did you know her?
Yes, I did.
And how long had you known her?
I'd known her since the beginning of my junior year of college, so a year and a half or so.
And at the time, were you living together as roommates?
We were.
And were you just roommates, or could you describe your friendship with her?
We were extremely close friends.
And did you participate in any other activities with her?
Yeah, we were both on Vanderbilt's dance team together as well.
And could you just briefly explain what the dance team is?
The dance team is an athletic spirit program at Vanderbilt University.
And I'm going to direct your attention to Saturday, June 22nd. Do you remember that night?
I do.
And could you describe what was going on that night earlier in the evening prior to anybody leaving the apartment?
Yeah, so me and the victim had some people over at our apartment. Those people, I believe, were Katie White, Madison Jensen. I had a friend who was in town visiting me from Seattle, Washington, and there may have been somebody else, can't quite remember, but we were just over hanging out in our kitchen, just having a couple of drinks.
And did you see specifically what anybody was drinking while they were at the apartment?
I know that I was drinking gin, but that's all that I remember.
And did you drink a lot that night?
No.
And was there any reason for that?
I had to get up early the next morning to work, and then the friend that I had visiting me as well had to wake up at 6.
So after y'all are hanging out at the apartment, what if anything happens? Do you go anywhere?
Yes, we got in a cab and went to Tin Roof.
And do you remember about what time that was?
I believe that was around midnight.
And could you describe what happens once you arrive at the Tin Roof?
So once we got to Tin Roof, we started taking some pictures of our friends, and then we said hi to some people, and then that was pretty much it.
And just for reference, how far away is the Tin Roof from your apartments?
It's not very far at all. I don't know the exact mileage, but it's just a very short cab ride.
I'm going to ask that the witness be passed 2 photographs. And Your Honor, just for the record, those have recently been shown to defense counsel.
All right.
Ms. Miller, do you recognize those photographs?
I do.
And what are they of?
They're photos of me and the victim in one of them, and then in the other it's me and the victim and one of our close friends.
And when were those photographs taken, if you remember?
The night of June 22nd.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that the 2 photographs be entered as the next numbered exhibit.
All right, that would be number 62, I believe. 63, number 62. Oh, that's right. 63.
And Your Honor, may I have permission to publish those photographs to the jury?
Yes.
Screen 63A, could you describe what's shown in that image?
Me and the victim are smiling. I'm on the right-hand side of the photo, and she's at the left.
And is this photograph, is that an accurate depiction of how the victim looked that night?
Yes.
And could you describe how much time passed from the time that you arrived at the Tin Roof to taking these pictures? Your best guess.
I would say 5 minutes or less.
And I have just put up what has been entered at 63B. Do you recognize that photograph?
I do.
And could you describe what's shown in that photo?
I'm on my left-hand side of the picture. Our close friend Madison Jensen is in the middle, and then the victim's on the right side. And we're just smiling and posing.
Did you notice anything unusual about the victim's behavior at the time that you arrived at the Tin Roof?
No.
And what happened after you took the photographs?
After we took the photographs, we walked around the bar, and then me and my friend Molly Henderson decided that we were going to leave early since we had to be up so early. So we said hi to some friends, found some Vanderbilt friends over there, and then after that we left.
And do you remember seeing the victim prior to leaving?
Yes.
And could you describe how she seemed? Did she appear any differently than she did in what we just saw in those photographs?
Yeah, she seemed totally normal, just how she appeared in the photographs.
And did you see her with anyone when you left?
Yeah, I saw her with Brandon Vandenburg.
And could you describe what, if any, interaction that you had with Mr. Vandenburg that night at the Tin Roof?
Yeah, so I didn't personally have any interactions with him at all. I did see him go up to the victim and hand her a drink, and he seemed very excited that she was there when he handed her the drink, but that's all that I saw.
And so you said that you left with your friend Molly and you all went home.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do when you arrived home?
When we got home, we went up to my bedroom and we stayed up talking until about 3 in the morning.
And could you describe the apartments? Is it 1 level, 2 levels? How is it set up?
So we lived in a townhome, which is 2 different levels, and they're also condos, so they're right next to each other. And my bedroom is on the 2nd floor of the condo, facing the parking lot and the streets.
And you said that y'all have been living there for at least a year and a half, is that right?
We had actually just moved into that condo at the beginning of the summer.
Okay. Had there been previous occasions where your roommate, the victim, had come home after you were already in bed?
Yes.
And could you describe that? Is that something you would notice?
It is something I would notice. The walls in those particular condos were very, very thin. And my bedroom was directly over the door, so I could always hear people talking out on the streets, car doors shutting, that sort of thing. You could hear everything in those condos.
And during the time that you and your friend Molly were up talking, I think you said until 3 a.m., at any time did you hear anything out of the ordinary?
No, we heard some other students that were in a condo next door talking out on their porch, but we heard nothing out of the ordinary, just kind of a quiet night.
Did you at any time ever hear anyone knock on the door?
No.
And at any time that night, did you receive any phone calls?
No.
And without telling your entire phone number, what's the area code of your phone number?
360.
When was the next time?
The next time I saw her was when she came home in the early afternoon of the 23rd. And when she came home, I was initially pretty shocked by her appearance.
Had you noticed anything out of the ordinary between the time that you had gone home, stayed up late with your friend, and seeing her the next day?
There was nothing super unordinary. I do remember when I was walking my friend Molly out to her car, I just stood at the door and opened it, and I did see a black heel on the lawn, a distance away from our apartment, but that was the only thing I noticed.
And could you describe the victim's appearance when you saw her?
She was extremely disheveled, and there was several different things that were alarming to me. So one of the first things I noticed was her hair. It appeared as if it had gotten wet and then been dried again. It was very matted and just a strange consistency to it. In addition, later on in that afternoon when we went up to change clothes, I noticed that there was vomit encrusted in her hair. Aside
Could you
from
describe that? How did you notice that?
Yeah, so we later changed clothes and she had put her hair up in a bun, and underneath by her ear there was puke like crusted into her hair.
And was it a large, giant amount?
It wasn't a giant amount. It was fairly small but very noticeable.
And did you notice anything else about her appearance?
Yes, kind of moving down, her clothes had a very strange consistency to them, and her shirt also had some vomit encrusted on it, and so her shirt felt very starchy and stiff, similar to her hair, as if it had gotten wet and then been air dried or something of that matter. And then we also noticed that she had a huge gash on her knee, and there was also some other small bruises on her legs, and it had appeared as if she had fallen. And so we both were kind of, shocked at all of these discoveries that we were making and not sure what they were coming from.
And you said that the both of you were not sure where they were coming from.
Right.
Had you seen her legs and kind of the areas that you have described, the bruises? Had you seen those same areas of her the day before?
Yes. It was summertime and we both were on dance teams, so we were always in workout gear.
And did you see any of those bruises before that? Would you describe that she had several different bruises and a gash on her knee? At any time, did you inquire as to how she thought she got the bruises?
Well, we talked about it that morning, but neither of us knew. So we just figured that she had fallen or something of that matter had happened the night before, but we really had no idea.
And so you're saying she was not able to tell you?
Yeah, she had no idea at all.
And what did you do at that point?
At that point, point, we changed our clothes, and then me and the victim and our good friend Madison Jensen went to go get some breakfast at Pancake Pantry.
And do you recall what the victim's demeanor was like?
Yeah, she kept getting progressively more and more ill. And I remember even just sitting in line, and she was just leaning over and felt so sick, and she kept saying that she had never felt this sick before in her life, and she just didn't even know what had happened to make her feel that sick. She just was completely miserable.
And at any point after you're at breakfast, or I guess brunch if it's 12 o'clock that day, did you have any interaction or any contact whatsoever with Mr. Brandon Vandenburg?
I had no contact with him. I did overhear a phone conversation that was on speakerphone between him and the victim.
And do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Could you describe it?
Yeah, so
It's Mr. Vandenburg Statement.
Right. You can say what Ms. Vandenburg said.
okay. In general, I remember him calling or saying to the victim that he was being accused of some things that he would have never done, and that it wasn't fair, and that all he wanted to do was come over and hang out with her and that sort of thing. And he just was saying that he would have never done what he was being accused of. And both of us sitting there were really confused what he was talking about.
And do you remember exactly when that call occurred?
That occurred the night of the 23rd.
Are you certain about that?
You said the night of the...
Oh, excuse me. Whatever the following day was.
Okay. And did you ever see him at your apartment after that?
No.
At some point, did you notice additional injuries to the victim?
I did. So a few days later, we were cooking in our kitchen, and I noticed, or she actually brought up that she was having some pain on her rear end and kind of the back side of her legs. And so I took a look and found some pretty big bruises, and so I then offered to take a picture so she could see what I was seeing and I could show her.
I'm going to ask that this witness be handed an item. Ms. Miller, do you recognize what's been handed to you?
I do.
And what is that a picture of?
It's a picture of the victim's behind, and we're seeing one of the butt cheeks, and there's some bruising on it and some red markings as well.
And do you recall generally when that photograph was taken?
It was taken a few days after the 23rd.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that that photograph be entered as the next numbered exhibit.
All right, 64.
And may I have permission to publish it to the jury?
You may.
And Ms. Miller, the image on the screen, is that the image that you've described?
It is.
And where was that photograph taken?
It was taken in our kitchen at the Village at Vanderbilt.
I don't have any other questions. Thank
All right,
you.
cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Miller.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Miller, I want to talk to you about the night of the 22nd.
Okay.
Okay. And you were at your apartment.
Yes.
And you said earlier with Madison Jensen and the alleged victim was there.
Yes.
Also, and I thought you said someone else, and I didn't catch the name. I'm sorry.
We also had a friend, Katie White, there, and Molly Henderson.
Okay, that's true. And Miss Henderson was your friend from out of town that was visiting.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And you all were there drinking,
Yes.
pre-gaming, as they call it.
Sure.
Okay. And pre-gaming is drinking before you go out to drink. Is that my understanding of? Is my understanding correct?
Sure. We were just having a couple of cocktails in the kitchen.
Right. And the alleged victim was there, and she was drinking gin.
I can't quite remember exactly what she was drinking, but she was there.
But she was drinking.
Yes.
And do you recall testifying in an earlier proceeding in this case?
Yes.
Yes. Back in January 2015?
Yes.
And you recall being asked, do you know what the alleged victim was drinking on that night? And your answer being, I remember us both making mixed drinks with gin.
Okay, then I'm sure that's right.
Okay. All right. And you each, you weren't mixing her drinks.
No, we each mixed our own drinks.
Okay. And you know how much you had to drink,
Yes.
but you don't know how she was mixing her drinks.
No, we each made our own drinks so that we could control our drinking speed.
Each controlled your own individual drinking speed.
Yes.
And when you got to when you left for the tin roof, y'all went in a taxi.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the alleged victim owned a black Mercedes.
Yes.
And that black Mercedes was usually parked there at your apartments.
Yes.
At your condos. And you did not take the black Mercedes that night to the tin roof.
No.
Okay. And y'all rode a cab. Did y'all ride in the same cab?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you got there probably around midnight.
Yes.
And when you got there, you kind of looked around to see who your friends were there.
Yes.
It was a social occasion. Want to go out and socialize, see who's there.
Yes.
And at some point, you saw Mr. Vandenburg there.
That's correct.
Okay. And you'd said earlier that he was excited to see her.
Yes.
Okay. And you'd said in a previous hearing that he was happy to see her.
Yes.
Okay. And that he was in a great mood.
Yes.
Now, you and your friends, I guess Miss Henderson, you weren't there very long at the tin roof.
No.
I believe you had testified before that you were there under 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes.
And did you go to Midtown that evening?
I believe we actually I left with Molly Henderson and Madison Jensen. Madison wanted to stop by Midtown to see some friends there. So on our way home, because it was on the way, we stopped at Midtown to drop off Madison, and then me and Molly continued on our way home.
Okay. And did you see Juliana Martell that night?
I did.
She was at the tin roof?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about the next morning when you got up.
Okay.
Okay. And you walked outside, and you saw a shoe on the lawn.
Yes, sir.
And that was the alleged victim's shoe.
I believe at the time I didn't actually know it was her shoe. I knew it was her shoe once she came inside and had grabbed it and said, "Hey, why is my shoe on the lawn?"
Okay.
But I did see a shoe on the lawn.
Yes. But you saw it there before she got back.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Excuse me. And you weren't concerned when you got up that morning, her car was gone.
So actually, from how our apartment was situated, our front door is at the bottom of an embankment. And additionally, where her car was parked in the parking lot, it was to the side and behind some cars. If I had a photograph to show you, I would, but it's actually not possible for me to see if her car is there or if her car's gone from opening the door and just looking. I did find out that her car was missing once she came home and drove in with her car.
Okay, but she was coming from somewhere else.
Yes, but when I initially opened the door, I did not know that her car was there or not there.
Excuse me. And going back to the tin roof, when you left the tin roof, the alleged victim stayed there with Mr. Vandenburg.
Yes.
And you weren't concerned about leaving her there with Mr. Vandenburg because you knew they'd had a previous relationship?
Yeah, I had known that they had been hanging out for a while, so we trusted him. And in addition, there was other friends of ours, such as Juliana Martell there, so we figured she was with lots of good people, so we left.
Just a moment, John, please. All right. Note down. Now, I want to talk to you about after the alleged victim came back.
Okay.
Y'all had wanted to go to Pancake Pantry.
Sorry?
Y'all wanted to go to Pancake Pantry.
Yes.
And apparently, from what I hear, they have a very great brunch.
They do.
There on Sundays. And y'all went there. Alleged victim she changed her clothes.
Yes.
But you don't remember if she took a shower or not.
I don't believe she took a shower. I remember us going up to the room, quickly changing clothes, and then going to Pancake Pantry.
And you went to Pancake Pantry, this was on a Sunday afternoon, and it's pretty crowded from what?
Yeah, it can vary from Sunday to Sunday, but it's generally busy.
Okay. A lot of people around.
Yes.
Now, after Pancake Pantry, y'all returned to your apartment?
Yes.
And at some point in time, both of you went out to the pool?
Yes.
And there were other people out there, and y'all just kind of hung out with them talking?
We had a close friend who had a pool at 12 South, or excuse me, 11 North Apartments, and so we went to visit her at her apartment, and we did visit the pool that day.
Okay. And 11 North, I'm not familiar with that. How is that the same place as the Villages at Pandy, or is it?
No, it's very close, though.
Okay. Were you all able to walk there, or did you drive?
We drove.
Okay. And whose car did you drive?
I can't remember.
Okay. You don't remember if the alleged victim drove or whether you drove?
I didn't have a car, so it would probably be either our friend who lived there or Matt.
All right. going back to
The alleged victims.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I do apologize. The alleged victim's vehicle, the black Mercedes, again, it was not there the next morning.
No, I found out it wasn't there from her. Correct.
Let me have just a moment, John, please.
All right.
We're done yet.
Thank you, though.
That's all what you said.
All right, where you at?
Let me have a retrieve my
What?
May I retrieve my wallet?
Oh, sure.
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Miller. Your excuse. Next witness?
The next witness will be Catherine Parnell, and I believe Ms. also had a...
Yeah, we have to take up an issue with regard to her. You want to do it back in the back? All right.